This is the last week of Scorpio season. So this is really when we can do that deep inner work that maybe we've been pushing off. We still have this week, which is really asking us to do it, to be reflective and to pull those more repressed feelings up so that they're more available to us and so that we're not living in denial. So yes, it might be a really emotional week, but it's also just a great time for getting that work done. And then once it's Sag season, you can reward yourself and celebrate all of that hard work that you did. So we are looking at November 15th to November 21st, and I swear those are the dates. This week has a lot of activity. Every day there's a transit, and there are multiple transits in some of those days. So we have 10 transits to get through this week. I'm gonna try and be pretty concise with it so that we know what to expect and we can maybe welcome those energies more than we would have if they were just thrown at us. This week we have the full moon in Taurus, and if you want your tarot reading for the full moon, I just posted that yesterday, so you can go check that out on my channel. Oh, I'm doing that giveaway, so once I hit 300 subscribers, I'm going to be giving away a 30-minute reading of your choice. So all you have to do is subscribe and comment your favorite emoji so that I know you are interested in winning that. I'm really excited to get this information out to you. I love to hear from you, so drop your top 3 if you know it, your sun, moon, and rising. Let's get into it. Starting with November 15th, the sun in Scorpio is square Jupiter in Aquarius. This Scorpio season is already coming to its end, and it's been asking us to do that internal excavational work. And now we need to acknowledge that letting that work fester inside of you will ultimately cause a lot of tension and friction. So, by leaving your deep thoughts inside and not really addressing them or working towards healing them, you're basically assuring that it'll keep growing and growing into something larger that it doesn't need to be. So imagine you're realizing there's some deep-seated childhood traumas that need to be addressed, and you can do all that work internally, which is what we're meant to do. But at a point, all of the internalized energy has to be put outside of yourself, which is what Sagittarius season is going to help us do. But it's important to express yourself before you warp your situation into a whole new vicious entity that subtly affects your energetic body. So on this day, try and shine the light on the depth of emotion before it balloons and possibly takes over the rest of the emotional well-being. This transit can be a really healing experience, but only if you facilitate it yourself, and the want to grow from this square has to be there in order to utilize that really productive friction that it brings. So at the same time that the Sun-Jupiter square is happening, we also have Venus and Chiron working together in a more rigid fashion. So on November 15th, Venus in Capricorn is also square to Chiron in Aries. So your attempts to stay objective and clear could be foiled by the universe's request to identify your wounds and be honest about them instead of running away from them. Scorpio season is one of healing, and sometimes a step in healing is admitting your denial or that you do have repressive tendencies. Maybe on this day you take part in things that don't really align with who you want to be because it feels easier to do that thing and hide your flaws from others or from yourself. But what Venus and Chiron have in common is this need to rectify what's gone wrong. And honestly, they're both really geared towards healing. So using this as their common denominator, it would honestly be almost silly to deny those parts of yourself that really need that extra oomph of help. This aspect can also cause some tension or triggering moments in your relationship. So I just want to warn you to watch out for that fun one, and any triggers, breathe through them. So next, we have on November 16th, the Sun in Scorpio sextile Pluto in Capricorn. So this week seriously has just begun, and already it feels like we're being really pushed to our limits. We're being pushed to release that version of ourselves that we once thought were the most evolved and heightened versions to facilitate even more expansive and transformational growth. And this aspect really accelerates our desire for metamorphosis and wisdom. What's more, it gives us the opportunity to seize it in plain sight, which means we might not really take those opportunities. So watch out for the moments in this day that feel small, but they may have more to offer than meets the eye. And by taking them, you're actually accepting the beginning of a new cycle of self-awareness. Next, on November 17th, Mars in Scorpio is opposite Uranus in Taurus. So the 17th is a day of taking risks and searching for excitement and keeping things alive. Uranus is being activated this month by all the activity in Scorpio, so expect the unexpected. Mainly, try not to be shocked when there are outbursts of rage. This could be from others, but it also could be coming from yourself, so be prepared to talk yourself down when you do feel that spark. Express whatever anger or resentments that do come in a way that's more conducive, rather than simply spewing out the first thoughts that come to mind in an angry manner. Because those are reactions, and we want to respond tactically and with reason. So remember, you're searching for a solution, because focusing on the problem isn't going to get you anywhere on this day. So on the next day, we have Mercury in Scorpio trine Neptune in Pisces, and that's on November 18th. So Mars was in this position last week and not much has changed. But since Mars was last here, we have hopefully gained a strong understanding of what we're working on healing within ourselves. On this day, Mercury assists us in finding the modality through which healing will be best encouraged. Through Reiki, meditation, sound healing, or whatever works for you, you can find what delves into your soul and psyche in order to clear out that old buildup that's really causing the tension and that friction in your physical body. By putting in this effort, it could lead us to a very loving full moon. So use this time to effectively communicate with what your soul really wants. And maybe you need to express yourself creatively, or maybe you need to implement more meditation and spiritual practices into your life. Either way, I would definitely recommend getting comfortable with the energy of Neptune in order to really feel all of its healing effects. So this leads me to the next transit, which is our full moon in Taurus on November 19th. This full moon is providing the perfect safe space for us to grow through healing the parts of ourselves that we've repressed, through acknowledging how our fears limit us, through allowing expansion by way of admitting defeat. There's nothing wrong with admitting you have flaws, right? We're all human. So this full moon, serve yourself that love, compassion, and empathy that you've earned. Be kind to your body, mind, and soul. And be open to yourself about how you may fear development and growth. And then ask yourself why. Because by permitting this growth, you're simply carrying on evolving as yourself. And it doesn't have to be some extremely complicated or scary experience. You don't have to lose sight of who you once were to become who you will be in the future. Both versions of you can exist at the same time. So as an exercise, just try to allow your connection with your intuition. Let that guide you and your next steps, especially on this lunation. Really place that trust in your inner voice. Not only do we have this full moon, but we also have another aspect to look at on this day. So on the 19th, Venus in Capricorn is trine Uranus in Taurus. So our relationships could use a little break from stagnancy. But look at the systems that you have been subscribing to. How much are they serving you and how much are you relying on them simply because they're there and they're convenient? So try and change things up with your romantic partners, friends, or honestly even with yourself, because you may feel like you need to go for a spontaneous trip or spend a little more money on a special piece of art for your space. Adorn yourself with vintage jewelry, right? Venus rules jewelry and Capricorn rules antiques. Just let yourself be inspired by the energies you normally would reject simply because it's easier to stick to the routine. Uranus really wants to shake things up and Venus rules the relationships. So it would be really easy for us to cling to the relationships that we know and love, especially because Venus is in the loyal AF sign of Scorpio. But the work of Uranus will eventually overrule it. So instead of clinging to the past, you can allow that evolution of your relationships to actually run their course. And if they're meant to be, they will be. And if they're not, it's because there's something more for you to learn beyond them. And that can be a really hard pill for us to swallow. And you do have free will, so you don't have to go with Uranus on this one if you just aren't feeling ready. Next, on November 20th, we are going to have Mercury in Scorpio square Jupiter in Aquarius. This placement could make it difficult for us to focus on the bigger picture of what is really going on in our lives. Our capacity to focus during this time is high, but we may turn it into a tunnel vision where we're so laser pointed in on a single detail of a situation that we miss the larger theme of our circumstances. And because these planets are in fixed signs, I would suggest you try to remain open to other options from different sources. So you may think you know what's best, but I would suggest you try to accept support from others and implement a willingness to cooperate. Next, I know, there's a lot going on this week. So on November 21st, the sun enters Sagittarius, which means that it is no longer Scorpio season. There are still a lot of planets under the influence of Scorpio at this time, but the sun, which rules our expression of self, our ego, and that childlike sense of play, has shifted into this more fun-loving, optimistic, and friendly sign of Sag. We are in a transition period, and we are preparing to go with the flow. So exploring new cycles, assembling winter plans, and gearing up for the parties now take precedence. There's a feeling of weight being lifted, and we can sort of celebrate that we put in the physical, spiritual, and emotional work that Scorpio season asked us to. And so lastly, for this week, on the same day the sun enters Sagittarius, Mercury in Scorpio is sextile Pluto in Capricorn. You could find that your mind takes on a very probing nature during this time, using a curious and maybe investigative method of discovering feelings of maybe powerlessness. Power and control are at the forefront, and maybe this is the perfect time to implement daily positive self-affirmations to counter that destructive inner monologue. Either way, I would urge you to be aware of what attracts you in a magnetic fashion, because some things may pull you in for good reasons, but you could also be attracted to more self-destructive energies during this time. On the positive side, this could be a really great day to connect with others on the deep work that you have been doing. And honestly, you may just generally feel more open to talk about the more intense stuff. Having switched from this Scorpio season into Sag, we have done all of that intense work, and Sagittarius is allowing us to bring that to the forefront and communicate it to others. Where Scorpio season, I would say it was much more about retreating within and kind of communicating with yourself on a more secretive level. All right, so that was this coming week's astrology breakdown. There is a lot going on, and you may have feelings of being overwhelmed. Just know that we are going into Sag season, especially next week. We are in Sag season officially. So just let yourself do this hard work for one more week, do this deep work and self-reflection, and then next week we can sort of feel more open with other people and communicate openly and explore new ideas, and there's sort of just that weight being lifted, like I said. So I hope that was really helpful for you. I look forward to your comments. I love hearing what resonates with you or what interests you. So if you want, comment your top 3 below, your sun, moon, and rising. I love to hear those kinds of things. So yeah, all right. I will see you guys next time. Bye.